Welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are across the globe. Thank you so much for joining us today for our July virtual user group around geospatial analytics. We've got, as always, an all-star cast with us today. No big introductions for the folks on the line. You guys know Steve Brayford and Alex Homer, so they will be your presenters for today. They've got a great agenda lined up for y'all and super excited to show y'all what they have in store. A couple of quick housekeeping and then a few reminders from me, and then I will turn it over to the guys. As always, we will be recording this session, so you will receive a copy of the recording along with a copy of the presentation. That will be in your hands by tomorrow morning. It will also be posted on ibi.com under the resource section and our YouTube channel. So a couple of places there that you can check it out. During your time with us today, if you have any questions for Steve or Alex, please submit those through the Q&A. We will be monitoring those as we go along, and the guys will take your questions out loud and make sure that we get those answered for y'all. So don't be shy, submit your questions, submit your feedback, let us know. And then as always, we do have a evaluation form that I will send you guys at the end of the meeting. If you could take a few moments of your time, please fill that out. Your feedback is definitely much appreciated. So with that, let me log in and get a few of my resources that I typically share with you guys. As always, just as a reminder. So as I mentioned, today's topic is around geospatial analytics with Alex and Steve. So I will turn it over to them here shortly and they'll get started. Again, just as a reminder, if you haven't been with us, in the last 6 months, we are welcome back ibi.com. So we are sending all of you guys to the ibi.com website. We are no longer posting anything IBI related on tibco.com. So if you still are checking out Tibco and you're not finding anything, that is why. So please be heading to ibi.com for all your web focus and iWay and data quality needs. There you'll find all of our products and solutions. We're updating all of our customer stories out there. The resource section is what I had just mentioned. That is where you will find all of the on-demand user groups, Focus Fridays, previous webinars that we have hosted. So if you want to go back and view any of those recordings, that's where they all are living now. All of our upcoming events are posted out there under the events section. So upcoming user groups, Focus Fridays, and webinars are all posted out there. We are getting ready to add a bunch on there as we are gearing up for our fall series. We're coming to an end of summer, and we will be adding all of our events for the fall. So be sure to check that out. You also can access support at the bottom of the page to be able to submit any of your tickets for any help that you guys may need. So what's still coming, we are getting closer and closer and closer for this new website launch. We are coming with a lot of improvements in the next couple of months. We've been on the back end building some new things, more product documentation, education and training. You guys have been asking for that for a while, how-to videos, things like that. You will be able to access that from the website here in the coming couple of months. There also will be a link to the community. So you guys can access the community from the website as well. As I mentioned, the events section, this is where you'll find all your upcoming events. I do apologize, this is from the spring, but we will be updating this to show all the fall events once we get them loaded up and posted on the website. But be sure to be checking this out to stay in the know of the upcoming events. Community, I know you guys, a lot of time we talk about this a lot. Right now, yes, we still are on the Tibco community. We are exploring some other options, hopefully for 2024. No promises just yet, but we are looking at some other options to, kind of go back to having our own IBI space, similar to what we had with my IBI. But as for right now, we are still on the Tibco community. We do encourage you guys to still go out there and use this community. We want you guys engaging out there. You can still find all of your, knowledge and support and the best use of the IBI products that we have. Engage with us, interact with us on this platform. It is a simple process. If you were on myibi.com, you can register with your old login. If you were not on myibi, you'll just go out and start the registration process as of new. But we do encourage you guys to go check it out while we do still have it. And then, of course, we will keep you guys in the loop as we, look at these transition process of a possible new community coming in 2024. As I mentioned, we do have the web focus. So this is for all of you, all of your community members. If you're looking for those discussions and those questions that are posted by others in the community, this is where you will find them. We also have a plethora of new articles that are coming from our SE team. So be on the lookout for those new articles being posted. A lot of great knowledge that's coming. We do have 2 private groups out there. One is the overall user group community. This is the one I kind of manage. So you guys, again, if you want to be a part of this, it's just another place to stay in the know of upcoming user groups that are going on, for us to interact with each other, you guys to interact with each other. And then the Walters and Mark have a group for their Focus Fridays. So if you guys want to join that and stay in the know of what's going on in the focus world, be sure to request to join their group as well. Social media, we all love it. It's out there. We'd love for you guys to subscribe and follow us on our social media. I know a lot of you guys are already following us on LinkedIn, and that is fantastic. We appreciate it. We do have the Twitter account as well as our new YouTube channel. I know I've said this several times on these meetings. This is a new channel. It is not the same one we had in the old IBI world. So if you're not subscribed to this new one, be sure to head out there and subscribe to it, because this is where you will find all of the new recordings of the new videos. And this will also be where we are posting training videos as well. So be sure to check out these three social media channels. And then last, the tech refresh program. Just always want to keep this at the front of your mind, guys. If you are looking to upgrade to Web Focus 9 and you want it to be effective and fast and pain-free, you need to look into our tech refresh program. Dan Ortolani and his team head up this program, and it's a 3-stage process to help you guys get upgraded. So if you are interested in this, please let us know. You can put it on the evaluation form. You can reach out to Dan's team personally, or you can go out to the website, ibi.com, at the Web Focus Technology Refresh Program, and submit your form and get more information from there. But guys, I'm telling you, if you're looking to upgrade to Web Focus 9, this is the route to go. So please consider this. And then last but not least, the Academy. As I had mentioned, we are working on getting our own training and education kind of platform set up for you guys. But for now, we do still have some stuff posted on TIBCO Academy. So if you are looking for a little bit of training and some data sheets and things like that, you can go out to the TIBCO Academy platform. And we do have the self-paced e-learning courses, some tutorials, and some other assets. Again, this is all stuff that will be evolving over the next few months, especially going into 2024, where we will be able to provide you guys with a lot more how-to training materials that you guys have been asking for. So we're excited to be able to bring that to you. All right, on that note, guys, I am going to stop sharing. I'm going to turn it back over to Alex, and we're going to dive in to the good stuff today. Alex? And you're on mute.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Shay. That's for later. So yeah, excited to have everyone here on the call. This is a subject that is kind of near and dear to my heart. I think this stuff's always really cool. Our geoanalytics features that we have available in Web Focus, which are very varied. Here's like a general agenda, mostly to keep myself on track, but here's kind of what we'll be covering. We'll be covering some of the new features we added, our cool designer multi-layer map builder, and then some of the like kind of fancy custom stuff that you can do. A lot of geoanalytics features have kind of like standard stuff for them. That's one of the great things about kind of like GIS and mapping in general. There's a lot of standards out there, and those are like kind of supported in Web Focus in various ways. So if you have content that you built in third-party tools, you can bring them into Web Focus and leverage them there. So it can really extend kind of the geoanalytics capabilities of your maps as well with that. So kind of getting started, I think when it comes to like BI content, I think maps are actually one of the types of content that we interact with the most in our lives. It's not always like in a BI context, but just think about how many times on your phone you might use like Google Maps to find like a restaurant or somewhere you want to go, check traffic, all that kind of stuff. To get directions to a new place. You can remember back before we had like smartphones, how hard it was to print out the map and remember where you're going. I know as a directionally challenged person myself, I always got lost. Every day when we check the weather, of course, we see maps, and we see lots of like infographic type maps all over the place on social media, on the internet in general. So I think maps are actually one of the content types that we kind of are very used to and interact with in our daily lives. And that means that for kind of the end user type people, they're already familiar with a lot of the concepts and basic like how to understand a map in a way that certain chart types, for example, might be a little bit more conceptual to them. They might need to like, do a little bit of like learning to understand how these other chart types work. So maps something we're very familiar with, always present in our lives, and they provide like a lot of great context when it comes to your data. They can show huge volumes of data, but whereas that stuff would be kind of difficult to navigate if it was in a report format or in like a bar chart with tons of bars in it, the map not only gives you access to all that information, but it also makes it easy to find if you know what you're looking for. And it also provides like kind of a relational context to all those items so that you can see like which areas are close to each other. It's very easy to kind of like group them conceptually rather than kind of arbitrarily like alphabetically or something like that, which some other chart types would generally group things as. And maps are also pretty flexible, I mean, I think obviously like if you have countries and states and cities and zip codes and that kind of thing, you can show that on a map. But other things that you might not think of as being like a map supported like data type, like stuff like you can track warehouses and stores. We have like streaming maps that you can track even like buses and trucks and airplanes, used for stuff like shipping and all sorts of other stuff. So there's a lot of different variety of information that you can get from a map. And because maps are kind of like a universal, they kind of exist outside the data, there's a lot of additional kind of transformations and interpretations you can do with that information. So when it comes to web focus, there are a few kind of like map concepts that we'll kind of be talking about here in case you're not familiar with them. And a lot of these, as I mentioned, are kind of like third-party standards. Web focus uses Esri integration. Esri is like a big GIS provider, and they provide like a lot of mapping resources. These include things like they have map layers that you can reference. That's kind of like a little map that's been pre-created by someone else that you can bring into your content for some more context. Base maps, kind of like the map background. So like when you open up Google Maps, that's like how you know what you're looking at in the map is like the base map. And then the little markers and stuff go on top of that. There's a lot of other resources that you can use as well. And those include kind of like different ways of manipulating the data and stuff like that we can kind of like leverage from Esri features as well. And some of those additional widgets are explained here. You got like drive ranges, which are very useful for if you want to see like how many of your data points are within a certain distance of a selected area, transforming your markers and things like that, highlighting different areas and routing so that you can see like how long it will take to get from point A to point B. All that stuff is handled kind of automatically. You can like enable that very easily in your map and access that stuff easily. So we'll show you some of those things and how easy they are to use once you've created your map. While we also provide like kind of like easy to use mapping interface, we also have a lot of customization options since a lot of times you might have your own kind of like geographic areas that you want to analyze, your own kind of breakdown of things. So we support custom shapefiles. Shapefiles kind of like a universal standard in the GIS world as well, kind of like a way for you to create a map and then reuse it anywhere. So we can use like different areas, polygons, since like if you think of the shape of an area on a map, since it's a flat surface, it's like a polygon. So you can create a bunch of polygons in a shapefile and then use that and then map your data using those areas. We'll show you an example of that so that you can understand how that works if you're not familiar with the concept already. But that's a great feature if you have your own like kind of custom areas that you want to interpret. We have like theming so that you can customize the appearance of the map a little bit. Custom icons, which you can do as images or SVG paths, which I think is great because SVGs scale really well. Images are great too. Very easy to use since it's very easy to find images like anywhere, but SVGs are great as well when it comes to like scalability and kind of like adaptability, since you can also very easily like change the colors and everything of an SVG. And then finally, as I mentioned before, reference layers that are on ArcGIS, you can reference them in your web focus content to provide even more information. And a lot of these things are publicly available as well, because, for example, like state and federal government, they have agencies that track like environmental and demographic information. And a lot of times they'll create their own maps, and those are very easy to use and leverage. And they provide like a lot of really great information. And by the way, we also have streaming, which is great, especially like tracking like vehicle locations and stuff like that. And we also support 3D, which just looks cool. I know that's like an area where there's been like a lot of progress lately in the general mapping world. So yeah, when it comes to specific features that we added in past releases, 9.0 is when we released the Web Focus Designer multi-layer map interface. And that included the ability to add multiple layers to a map, both new within the map from the data source that you select in Designer, and also any layer that you've created previously and saved to your repository in Web Focus, you could reference that, and it doesn't need to be the same data source. So you can kind of leverage information from multiple data sources for even more context. And that's not even mentioning the kind of like publicly available demographic layers and map layers that I mentioned earlier. Those can be also like any data source, and those can provide a lot of great information as well. So there's a lot of different ways that you can enhance your map. And then in 9.1, we added a lot of kind of easy to use widgets and those kinds of things. So we added some theming options so that you can make sure that the map kind of like is styled to match the general theme if you're using it in a portal, for example. The base map has a big part of that as well, but the map interface can also be styled. We added animated flow rendering. So if you have a map that has kind of like directional lines, you can animate them and style those, which I think looks very cool if you have any of that kind of data. We've got drive range analysis, which is great to see like how many points are within a certain vicinity. So it's not just like a circle, which, you know, two areas that are like the same distance from the same point. One of them might be much faster to get to that point because of how the roads are laid out. So drive range analysis takes that into account, so you can see which points are within like an hour's drive of the point that you want to analyze. And that data is very useful. You could even, like dynamically speaking, use it for a little bit of kind of what's called like geofencing. You can track like whether something has entered that area and see information about it in real time. We added bookmarks to make it easy to kind of like take a look at different maps at different times and then save what you're looking at so you can revisit it later. And we made it easier to show non-geographic information in a map by showing it as pie charts. So it makes it a little bit easier to analyze those items. And then in 9.2, we added some more features. We added binning feature, which you can see in the middle. I thought that one was very cool when we added it. It's kind of like a heat map, but it uses like rectangular areas, so you can see like the kind of concentration of different areas in sort of like a rigid grid type of view, which is very useful. It's kind of like a regular shape, so it's easier to interpret. We also made some updates to the heat map so that you can enable it and change a lot of the settings at runtime to get like a heat map that is best reflective of the data that you're looking at. Also made some changes to how we handle duplicate names, which is useful for a lot of countries might have like the same city name within the same state. So we now handle that a little bit more easily. It's kind of like an edge case, but one that does come up sometimes. And then finally, we added a very cool feature called filter effects, which allows you to highlight specific areas of a map based on either filter criteria or based on geographic selection, like directly on the map. So we'll be showing some of that later too. That one's a very cool feature to kind of highlight key information in your map at runtime. And so just discussing the designer interface, Steve's going to demo this in a second and show you like kind of how it works. But overall, what we have is like a very map specialized interface, and it kind of makes it easy to utilize the ways in which maps are different from other content types. So one of the key ways is that the map can have multiple layers. We see these examples here. We've got both points and we have polygons for like the country areas. This is called like a choropleth map in technical terms. And you can use both of these together to kind of like highlight information. So where you see discrepancies between the two different types of layers or between multiple layers on your map, you can kind of identify that there might be some patterns there or some kind of like outliers that might be interesting to look into. So you can use those. Designer multi-layer map interface allows you to create new maps, reference maps that you've created previously using any data source, and reference maps from Esri ArcGIS. So whether the map layers that you want to use are in your WebFocus environment or outside, you can use those. And then there's some like basic like formatting and styling options available there too. So I'll hand it over to Steve and he'll show you some of the cool features that you can use in Designer.
All right, let's switch out of PowerPoint for a few minutes. Good morning. Just want to echo Alex's points. Great to see everybody, at least virtually, on our user group meeting today. It's also a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I absolutely love interacting with maps and truly understand the value that they bring to a BI application. So this is a great time to showcase some of the new features that have been put in from our product engineering group. They've worked very hard to get some of these features enabled. So hope these are really striking a chord. And Alex, you can see my screen, correct? No problem.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
Excellent. So let's go ahead and create a map. And the first thing that you would do, we're in the 9.2 release here, and I'm actually at the WebFocus hub screen. We're going to go ahead and create a visualization. The first thing that's going to do is actually prompt me for a data source. And I do actually have a data source outside of WF Retail. I've got some Airbnb data that I brought into WebFocus. Yeah, it's older data, it's off Kaggle, but it's great for demonstration purposes. So you can see kind of some of the data that's included here. We've got some dimensionality around the data. We've got the name of the host, the neighborhood group. And if I just kind of interact with that real fast, you can see we've got Bronx, we've got all the 5 boroughs here are represented of New York, and then the respective neighborhoods within those groups. We've got a lat long defined in the data set, which has created a GIS point that allows me to be able to interact with the map and put points on the map themselves. Measures here, we've got price of the Airbnb, we've got the minimum nights that a person has to stay in order to be able to leverage or rent out the Airbnb. Number of reviews per month, and you can see whether we've got availability on a 365 basis. See how often that actual rental was utilized. So the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to change to the single multi-layer map kind of icon here, and you can see as part of all the graph types, mapping is one of the common standard map types. We just have to click on that and it will bring us into this. It shows that we can't switch to another type once we've started designing our map. You can actually build the individual pieces of content, and then we're going to show some examples later of where we've actually added that content to pages, so that you can allow your maps to interact with other data on the pages, and Alex will go into that a little bit more in a few minutes. So the multi-layer map concept, you can see down the left-hand side here, we've got the ability to be able to add data layers and content layers. So those are really the two primary types of layers that you can add. If I go and add a data layer here, and I could change the name, I'll just leave it as is, but really the two different types of maps that we see here, we've got choropleths, which think of those as polygon maps or just areas defined on the map, and then proportional symbols, which allows us to be able to put our data, geographic individual points, and be able to interact with those points on the map. So for the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to go ahead and add some points to the map. And we can immediately go in and we could just drag over a GIS point that's going to, even in a virtual kind of in a live data kind of concept here, we're going to get the first 500 points of data, echo those back to our map. And we've got quite a comprehensive data set here. It's probably over 20,000 plus points of Airbnbs that are on in the New York area. And we can, add filters to our map the same way as we would any other report. So if I wanted to, I could come out here and I could drag in, put an implicit filter, or I could drag a filter up to the top here and I could, start to interact with that and say, okay, now we only really want to focus on Manhattan when we run it. We could also have, individual neighborhoods within Manhattan. And of course, the nice thing about the web focus designer is that it's going to build those implicit interactions with the individual filters. So here we've got our neighborhoods filtered out by, by Manhattan. If I change this now to Bronx, then you're going to see that neighborhood is going to change as well. And so, we could leave this on here if we wanted to, and let's go ahead and put a measure on here. So if we want to, drag in price onto our canvas here, now we're going to start to see that our data will render here. Let's just take off our neighborhoods here, and you're going to start to see the points rendering on the map in sample area, and here we are in the Bronx. What we could also do is we could change some of the features and formats of the map itself. So here, if I simply right click on this layer here, we could add or change some of the map properties overall. So we can change the opacity level when the points are actually initially, or when the map is initially rendered. What's the opacity level of the individual points on the map? We can change kind of the data labels here, how they appear on the map. We can also change some general map options. So here's where we could turn on the 3D mode if we wanted to. In this particular case, I don't think it's a good showcase of the 3D mode for this, but I could also change some of the base maps here that we see, and you can add additional base maps into the web focus reporting server, and these are the core ones that come with the product. So if I was to change this to say streets at night and go ahead and apply that information, now you're going to see the base map change. It might be more beneficial to see, I've got a color scheme here, which you could change, of course. However, I've got this blue color theme that is predominant in my data here. And so it showcases a lot better on a dark background. So we'll leave that base map the way it is. We talked about being able to implement viewer themes. You could do that and change the actual theming of the tools as well. And here's where you can enable a lot of the widgets and change some of the properties associated with those widgets. So for instance, if you don't want to enable bookmarks, you can uncheck this. You can take off, and change positions of where the zoom indicator shows and search indicator shows on the map. And then some additional interactive elements of the map. I could turn on direction finder, location finder, measuring to be able to measure distances between multiple points on the map. Yeah, we'll keep things the way that they are there. Now I could put multiple measures on here and we could interact with those if we want to. I'm going to keep a single layer on here. And let's see, what else do we want to do here? Let's add another, this time a content layer to our map, right? So I've got some additional maps that have been created here, and I can go out to any authored map that has been previously created would appear in this list. And you can see I've got some resources out here. This neighborhoods layer map, for instance, is there. Alex has created a price by neighborhood. We're going to go ahead and add that one to our authored map. So here, the thing to note is these are actually created out of a different data set. So as Alex mentioned, you can have different layers on the map that you can interact with and visually display anomalies, or you can visually display patterns of data from different data sets very easily and quickly by enabling these authored map layers that you want. So any previously created map, you can save as a layer and then be able to incorporate that right on the map that you're creating. So we'll go ahead and add that. And let's also add, and what I could also do here, by the way, is I can just turn off whether I want to show that automatically, right? So I'm gonna turn that layer off by default, so that we're going to face just the points on the map when we initially render the map. Here I'm going to also add an additional content layer. Here, let's add a demographic layer. So these are the layers that are provided through ESRI that you can incorporate in here. And you could add additional demographic layers to your Web Focus instance through the Web Focus reporting server and be able to interact with those. Some of those are free of charge to use. Others are part of a paid service. So let's go ahead and add housing units. This seems to be a pretty pertinent layer for us to use, given we're analyzing Airbnb data. So I'm going to go ahead and add that layer to our map as well. And I'm going to showcase how you can actually interact with that map layer when we render it. I'm actually going to turn that off also by default, right? So it doesn't show up on the map when we initially render it. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and click back on our data layer that we have here. And as I mentioned before, we could put some filters in here. Let's just go ahead and focus. Maybe I'm going to Manhattan. So let's go ahead and filter on Manhattan here as our neighborhood group. Now I know this is actually going to showcase data outside of Manhattan to begin with, but when the map actually renders, it will when you run it, it's actually going to showcase our point layer in Manhattan. So let's go ahead and run that now. And you can see we've got a vast amount of data here. I think there's over 20,000 points in this data set. So it's a fairly decent sample size for a map. And you can see that comes back fairly quickly. And initially, you can see all the points that are in Manhattan. These are all the Airbnbs that are available within Manhattan at that time that data set was created. And obviously at this particular point in time, we've run our map here. We've got our restricted data set just back to Manhattan. But of course, there's not a lot of analytics that we can derive from this. It just looks like one big white splodge on the map. And we can't see any of the variation in the prices, and we can't see any of the variation in the locations of these points on the map. So we can use some of the mapping features to be able to isolate and identify key patterns, key anomalies in our data set just by using some of the map interaction features here, right? So I'm going to focus and concentrate on the left-hand side here of the menuing. And Alex is going to showcase more of the interaction with the map and with other map objects, or with other objects as well, in his demonstration just a little bit later on. So here, the first thing that we've got our data layer represented here, and you can see we've got a legend down the left-hand side. I'm actually going to turn that legend off for right now. And then if I click on the button here, we can see here's our 3 individual layers that we have on the map, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off my data layer right now, turn on a secondary layer that was created by Alex that showcases the price by neighborhood. So this is nice because we can actually kind of hover over there, and you can get some information about aggregate values of properties in the given neighborhood that we are looking at. Let's take a look real quick, though, at our data layer. We'll turn that back on again. And of course, as I mentioned before, it's not easy to distinguish patterns. Even if I zoom in, you can see there is a lot of density of points on this map. So let's explore some of the ways in which we can kind of interact with this map. And you can see each layer has a little drop-down box here that expands a panel that gives me the ability to change some properties of that individual data layer. So here we've got opacity. We could, if we had multiple layers on the map, right now we could, isolate individual layers and kind of zoom in, or we could actually show through opacity relationships in different layers. Here we've got the marker type set right now. Let's just kind of change to density. So again, nothing that you need to necessarily do to the map to actually, expose this feature. It's just a core part of the mapping interface. And you can see that instead of a cluster of white dots now, we have a nice density layer. This density layer is actually, dynamic in when we zoom out, we can see, the predominant density here. And as we zoom in to this layer, then we start to see a more granular level, the density picking up individual points on that particular zoom level. Now, there are some density settings here that we can explore. For instance, we can change the color. You can see that we've got a whole host of different heat maps built into to the UI here to basically allow you to explore the data. You can change some of the features here around the maximum density and minimum density. So, when you zoom out and you see a cluster of in this case, yellow, or it was white before, you could set the maximum density level. You can also change the reference scale, which is nice, which basically shows, the maximum extent essentially of how how much density is actually going to be represented on the map. So here you can kind of see, even when I zoom out now and zoom in, it's going to fix the density level. So it makes my analysis a little easier to see if I want to zoom in on a particular area, like for instance here on the Upper East Side here, we've got some markers that are clustered here, and that zoom level is going to stay no matter where we are zoomed in on the map, which is a nice way to kind of make sure that your analysis is going according to plan. Now we can also with this drop down box here be able to change from density to clustering, which yet again is another great way of being able to visually see the numbers of cluster points in a given area, right? And that is also dynamic as well. As we zoom in and out, you can see the clustering changes and the counts dynamically change accordingly. And this is a great way of being able to visually represent, literally you can see we have thousands of marker points just in Manhattan. And I could take off the filtering that we've already applied, and you can see we've got well over 20,000 marker points that would be represented on this map of New York. So clustering is also very good for being able to get a visual representation of the density. And as Alex mentioned before, a new feature in 9.2 is binning. Now, by default, this fixed bin level is too zoomed in. So let me go ahead and kind of, zoom and create more bins. And you can see here, this is a nice way again of being able to represent the number of points on the map by a fixed area, right? So again, this is kind of a nice way of representing that. And we can see obviously up in Central Park area, there's a lot less Airbnbs available. Most of them are in Midtown. You can get more granular with the binning as well. If we just kick it up a notch here, when we now zoom in, you're going to see, as I zoom in, you're going to see those features represented here. And again, we've got 34 in this one little geographic square, as it were, and it's a nice way of being able to visually represent the density of the population points. Okay, let's go back to our markers for 1 second though, which is going to show obviously a lot of points on the map. Not as easy to identify anomalies here. So let's use some of the feature effects of the mapping to allow us to be able to start to see some isolate some anomalies that might be in the map. And you can see here, you could either do that by a selection on the map, or you could apply a filter to the map. So here we're going to do a filter, and just for the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to filter on price, and we're going to say where price is actually greater than or equal to, and the reason why I'm doing that will become very evident here in a minute. When I start to slide this up now, you can have a dynamic filter on the map. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's emphasize those that actually meet the criteria in our filter here. Let's change and embolden those features. And as we start to slide that up now, you can start to see those individual points that meet the criteria that we're setting here start to get highlighted. Now, what I can do is I can de-emphasize the ones that are not highlighted, but just very easily just click the drop-down box here, and we can say, let's go ahead and fade those out. So now you can really start to see anomalies in your map. And when I zoom out now on the map, you can start to see those individual points that may make up this particular area. Now, I do have to zoom in to get the individual points because we've got so many on the map here. It's tough to isolate them, but here you can see, $5,250 a night. Now, I could put additional information in the tooltip to get that information, about that individual point. So you can enhance the tooltips here to give you a lot more information in the layer selection when you hover over it. Now, so that's touching on markers. It's touching on feature effects. We've touched on density. We've touched on clustering and the bins. Let's take a quick look at some of the other layers that we have here. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my data layer here and just kind of zoom out a little bit more. We'll go ahead and turn on this previously rendered, excuse me, ACS housing units layer. Let's go ahead and turn that on right now. And you can see this is a map layer that's provided by ESRI, and it gives us some valuable information that would be useful if we're doing, potentially marketing, or we want to understand what houses are available for, that might be owned or maybe rented. Maybe we're looking to potentially buy a property in a given area, and we can get some good information here about the property units that are available in the census tract. So this is actually by census tract. And the nice thing is we can gather some very pertinent information here. So here we have census tract 59 in New York County. So there's a lot of behind the scenes data that comes with this layer that allows us to be able to get some very important information. Across the estimated 3,217 housing units there are here, the estimated median home value is $1.1 million. Median rent was $2,100 per month, right? So here you can kind of see also a breakdown by pie chart of the housing units that are renter occupied, that are potentially vacant. These may well be a target for us if we're looking to purchase an Airbnb. And the nice thing, of course, about this is that we can change the opacity level in this particular area, and we could turn on our data layer as well. And we can start to see, okay, well, maybe we want to look at, those feature effects. We can kind of de-emphasize some of the values here, maybe look a little bit more into that particular area as to what the properties are that may be over a certain amount. And start to be able to do that cross comparison with the ESRI layer that was previously rendered. So, okay, so hopefully that covers some of the features that have been added with 9X releases, especially the 9.1, 9.2 releases. I think we're making amazing strides to incorporate a lot of the features and functionality that were previously only available in App Studio and now available for map renderers in the designer tool. So based on that, I'm going to hand it back over to Alex.
All right, thanks. Yeah. No, as you can see, like a lot of options, a lot of stuff like built in you don't really need to do any extra configuration or anything. A lot of those options are just just readily available to use. So I just make sure I didn't skip ahead here. No, I didn't. Okay, so yeah, one last thing I wanted to touch on is, yeah, we saw a lot of that stuff is built in, but there are a lot of cases too where you might have built your own stuff. You might want to leverage that in WebFocus. So I'm going to show you a few of the ways that you can use some of that additional content and make it work with your map, both in the map itself. There's a lot of those GIS standards I talked about. I'll show you some of those. And also in WebFocus, I'll show you how you can like drill down from a map to a page. We have a few different options for that and get even more information out of your map. So yes, let me take a look here. We built this dashboard earlier. And so this also, as you can see, a lot of points in this map. I think I set like a record limit on it just to like keep it a little bit smaller. But you can see that we have some additional information related to that as well. So we've got a report with each of the listings listed here. And then we've got some like, rental information for our Airbnb. So we can see if we're getting a good deal, for example. We can see like what the distribution of prices are and in two different ways and see which ones are outliers, etc. So I'm going to open up this map and show you what we have built. So there's a few custom functionality that we've actually included here that is available for use in WebFocus. So first off, you take a look at the legend here, you can see that the point map that we're using actually has some custom icons. These are SVG paths that I created. And I'm by no means a very proficient user. I used Inkscape for this. I guess it's like an SVG tool. But you can see you can create some like custom icons. It's a good way to like identify different types of points by series. So in this case, if it's an entire house, it's one of these, or entire home / apartment. So it might not be a house, but it'll be one of these like yellow house icons. If it's a private room, it'll be this like green icon with a lock on it. And if it's a shared room, then it will be blue icon with a little like share icon. So I wasn't sure what to do for that one. You can see there are not too many of those. I think I see like a few of them up here possibly. But again, because we have these like filtering options here, I think this is the top data layer. You can still like use feature effects to like find the one that you're looking for regardless. But yeah, so that's one custom item. The other thing was that we mentioned these this like neighborhood layer that we're using. So this is also like kind of a custom item. Neighborhoods, it's kind of like an arbitrary. Some of these, I guess, are like kind of like standardized, but in some cases they're kind of arbitrary boundaries. I think even in New York City, there are some areas where it's like, is this place part of this neighborhood or that neighborhood? It's kind of like blurry. I got this data actually from the New York City government, and it is a shapefile. A lot of the kind of like polygon definitions that you could find out in the world are saved as shapefiles. I'll show you here. Here's what it looks like. This is QGIS. It's like a open source third-party tool, free to use. And I've installed it here. This is useful. There are a lot of tools like this out there too. But if you either want to check out like some third-party like shapefiles, if you have data that fits an already existing schema, but not one of the kind of like standard ones like country, state, city, that kind of thing, then yeah, a lot of times you can use like a shapefile like this. Or you can create your own shapefile. I didn't have to do that because this is very thorough, as you can see. But you can totally go in and create your own polygons. Let's say you have your own kind of like custom regions, kind of have like a little representation of that here. Like I could draw my own custom polygons and use those instead. And that could be very useful if you have data that doesn't necessarily line up to like standard geographic definitions, but is still kind of broken down by geographic area. That's a great way to do it. In this particular tool, we have like an edit option. You can like draw your own polygons. I think every GIS tool like this has an option like that. And then you can bring those into WebFocus as a custom geographic role. And just save the shapefile to your WebFocus application. And then there's just like the configuration step, relatively simple set of steps. And then you can use it in your map, set the geographic role for your data to use your custom geographic role, and then you get something like this layer that I have in the background, this one here. So that's some of the customization stuff that I did for this. Just like before, this is the same data set that we just showed with these points representing Airbnb locations. So maybe I want to see a breakdown neighborhood by neighborhood. There are a few ways that I can do that. One way is I could like select my own kind of like set of points. So for example, I live near Prospect Park in this area. Maybe I want to see what Airbnbs are available around the park. So I got like some Park Slopes, some of Crown Heights, some of Prospect Lefferts Gardens, probably some other areas as well, Brooklyn Heights, that kind of thing. And you didn't see this stuff reload, but when I selected it, I have a drill down set up so that these items on the page reload automatically when I make those selections. So now I can see the breakdown by neighborhood. I can see all the listings in each neighborhood in this report, and I can see a breakdown of the kind of distribution of prices. So I can see if I'm getting a good deal. I can see like, here's what the median price would be for an entire home and apartment. It'd be like $145. I can see this like histogram here. It's kind of like skew right, if I remember my stats class correctly. And so, I mean, this is like just one example of how you can take the information in your map and you can connect it to your outside information that you have in a dashboard that you've created in other charts and reports and get both detail information and some more high level information than what's available in your map. And so you get kind of the power of both. You get like this geographic representation where, can you imagine creating a filter just normally for these values? It'd be very difficult to do, right? Like you'd need to like specify like, oh, these are the neighborhoods that I want to include, but what if I don't want to include parts of like stuff that's like too far from the park? It would be kind of tricky to do. So this makes it a lot easier to do that. One other feature that we added that I will show you is the ability to select just a single neighborhood. We added, if you have a point layer and a polygon layer in your multi-layer map, then you get this layer polygon selection option. And so when I select that, I can click a polygon and then it will select all the points that are within that polygon. So this updated, you can see now it's like primarily Prospect Lefferts Gardens because that's the like polygon that I selected. Keep in mind the data source for the neighborhoods is a little bit different from the data source for Airbnb. So that explains kind of like the slight discrepancy there. But yeah, you can see now the information just for that neighborhood. And again, very easy, just like clicked it on the map. I didn't even necessarily need to know like the name of the neighborhood. I could just look at the map and be like, what's in this polygon? And now I've got all that information right at the tip of my fingers, I guess. So the drill downs into maps are a very powerful tool. This particular drill down is using our like drill refresh function, which is available for basically all like charts and report types, allows you to drill to different items in a page. So yeah, there's a lot of kind of additional content that you can use to really enhance the functionality of your map. Both things that are just available out there in the world using those kind of GIS standards, and also things that you've created yourself already, and you can use them in that new context with your GIS and geoanalytics content. So yeah, I think that was all we had for demos. If there's any questions, and we can take a look at those, I guess.
Yeah, it looks like you guys have a couple of questions if y'all want to get started on answering some of those. Is there a possibility to use different map providers?
Yeah, so our multi-layer map, or our map tools in general, are based on Esri. So that is the map provider we use. If you have, as I mentioned, kind of like your own custom files, then you can definitely bring those in, and you don't need to use Esri for this stuff. Like again, like this stuff will work a lot. Some of the Esri stuff is kind of like readily available to use, like free to use. You don't need an Esri account to use it. Other stuff does require an Esri account, so you wouldn't be able to use that. But if you have your own custom shape files and your own custom, if you have like base maps and stuff, your own some other items that you want to use, you can definitely use those as well, even without leveraging Esri.
Awesome. Do features like driving distance analysis require an Esri license and credits?
Yes, they do. Yeah, and that's why some of the features that we mentioned I didn't show here because I didn't have the like account stuff set up on this machine. But yeah, some stuff, especially like the more analytical stuff like the like the drive range analysis stuff, routing, They have geocoding options. So if you have just like addresses, Esri can like kind of process those and get you GIS points for those addresses. That kind of stuff that's more like on the technical side and more like more hardcore data handling, like that does a lot of transformations, generally does consume credits. And some of the layers do consume credits as well. The one that Steve showed, that one doesn't consume credits, so it's like free to use, but some of them, they have some very cool, but they also consume credits, like the tapestry analysis and stuff like that is very interesting, but does consume Esri credits, and you would need to set up like the Esri adapter on the web focus side to use those.
All right. Do maps in 9.2 have built-in shapes for US states, counties, and tie them to federal, state, and FIPS county codes in order to be able to show state county-based metrics?
Yes, we do. We do have US states and counties. If you take your data, you can tie it to set the geographic role to state or county. We also have that for a lot of other countries as well. Some at higher level of detail than others, but I think every country we have some level of like depth in there. But yes, US, we have states, counties, and then like pretty much like most cities, it comes from like census data. So some of the names that they use in the census are a little bit different than regular city names, but anywhere that's like a city of any substantial size too, we handle. As far as FIPS codes go, I do know that we have some level of support for that, but I have not tested it myself. We have these like alias files that you can use to like set different names for the same location. And I know out of the box, if the FIPS code is like the state abbreviation, I don't know if it is, but if it is, then we do support that out of the box. And you can also provide your own like custom names for locations too. You just need to set them up in this like alias file that we have documented.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Any other questions for Alex or Steve? Don't be shy, guys. Submit your questions through the Q&A. I see a couple of you guys are raising your hand, but I need you guys to please submit your questions through the Q&A, if you could, please.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, data labels are created kind of the same way that you could create data labels in a regular chart. I think we showed kind of briefly the data label options from within Designer. There, you can just turn on data labels for points that way. And it uses the same properties that we use for like a bar chart or a scatter plot or something like that. So, and then the next question I'm seeing, what version of ArcGIS JavaScript API do we support? So we try and keep up to date with the most recent release. I believe as of 9.2, that was 4.26. Does that sound right? I think Esri had a release this summer that we have added support for that will be in 9.3. So for 9.2, I think we supported whichever one came out that like winter or spring. And we try to also like incorporate those features in as soon as the API comes out, if they're like relevant to us. They've done a lot of like 3D stuff that we support some of it like 3D modeling type stuff. We don't fully support because it doesn't fall into the web focus context, but we do try to incorporate that stuff as soon as possible. Let's see, what's the state of Esri API on-premise capabilities? So I know, and I don't remember if this is in 9.2 or not, or if it will be in a future release, but we did a lot of testing for the on-premise API capabilities, and I believe have some documentation around that will be available. So basically, yes, we do support on-premise for multi-layer maps now, as long as you have like that 4.4.x, whatever, JavaScript API saved in your environment using the same process that you used in the past. We have had that documented in the past for like 3.x versions of the API. But basically the one thing to keep in mind is the kind of detailed information, but multi-layer maps use like the 4.x one because we're using like a lot of the new stuff. Your IA maps will continue to use like the 3.x. Those are like the single layer maps that you would have created in InfoAssist. Those would continue to use the same like older API. But yeah, I can double check and see which release that will be in, whether it's 9.2 or whether it is not in 9.2 yet. But we did do a lot of testing and work on that.
All right, well, it looks like there are no more questions coming in at this time. Again, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Steve, Alex, thank you so much for your amazing presentation, your demos, a lot of great information. So thank you for being with us as well. Again, guys, I did throw in the chat a quick link to the evaluation form. If you guys could take a quick moment before you head out and fill that out for us, greatly appreciated. Again, as a reminder, you will receive a copy of the recording and the presentation by tomorrow morning. It takes a little bit for us to get the recording together and get it all edited and all that pretty stuff and send it out to you guys. So it will be in your hands by tomorrow morning. If you guys do think of any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're here to help. We're here to answer. So if something comes to mind later on, don't be shy, reach out. We hope you will join us next month. Our theme for August is going to be around Open Data Hub. So we're excited to share that with you guys. So get ready. We'll have all of those virtual user groups coming, as well as an in-person user group for August as well. So be on the lookout for the events that are coming up as we round out summer and gear up for our fall series. So with that, thank you, David, for joining us. And thank you, everyone. We will talk to you guys soon. I hope you all have a great rest of your week and have a wonderful weekend.